Beloved Saint Anthony, you who stand eternally before God, ever ready to plead for those who seek your aid in times of desperate need and overwhelming despair, today we come before you with hearts heavy yet hopeful, urgently seeking your powerful intercession. Knowing your miracles manifest swiftly, we humbly call upon your blessed assistance right now. O gentle Saint Anthony of Padua, miracle worker and tender friend of those in dire need, we place at your feet the anxieties, illnesses, financial hardships, and family struggles that weigh heavily upon our souls. Intercede for us with urgency and compassion, for we trust deeply in your loving power to bring about miracles even in the bleakest moments of our lives. Saint Anthony of Padua, beloved and powerful intercessor, you know intimately the depth of our desperation and the urgency of our heart's cries. We come before you today with faith unshakable, certain of your unfailing power to deliver miracles. In this very moment, lives hang in the balance, futures await your merciful touch, and families long for restoration. Intercede swiftly for us, Saint Anthony, for to God nothing is impossible. O miraculous Saint Anthony, countless are the souls who have found hope restored through your prayer. Today, we urgently ask you to plead our desperate cases before the throne of God. Whether it be the urgent miracle prayer for financial breakthrough, the healing of bodies ravaged by illness, or the restoration of families shattered by misunderstanding and grief, we place all our impossible requests in your gentle hands, knowing fully your prayer works instantly. Dearest Saint Anthony, let no heart depart from this prayer unchanged. Let no one leave without receiving a touch of divine grace. Stay with us throughout this entire journey of faith, for there is a crucial blessing awaiting each soul who perseveres in prayer until the very end. Remind us, gentle saint, that within God's limitless love lies the immediate answer to every urgent plea, and that through your powerful Catholic miracle prayer, miracles are not merely hoped for, they are guaranteed. The miracle begins the moment you let go. There comes a moment when you've tried everything, every plan, every strategy, every prayer whispered in the dark, and still nothing changes. That's the moment that breaks many or awakens something deeper in the soul. It's not about giving up, it's about giving in. Letting go doesn't mean you're defeated. It means you finally made room for Saint Anthony to act, for God to move. And that's when miracles start to breathe. Most people live with clenched fists, holding tightly to their fears, their deadlines, their control. But clenched fists can't receive blessings. Picture a person standing in a storm, fists in the air, demanding it to stop, when what they need is to open their arms and surrender to the one who calms storms. Saint Anthony taught that in surrender, the most powerful miracle prayer begins. When we release, heaven responds. This is not about passivity, it's about trust in action. Trust says, I've done my part. Now, Lord, do yours. It's that moment when the soul exhales and the heart finally whispers, I can't do this alone. That whisper is louder in heaven than all our cries of control. Saint Anthony listens closest when our prayer is soaked in surrender. That's when he carries it to God like a burning flame, alive, urgent, pure. So many people pray with one hand open and one hand still holding on to fear. But true faith is when both hands are raised, empty, humble, desperate. That's when the urgent miracle prayer becomes a bridge between the impossible and the miraculous. And Saint Anthony, the saint of miracles, walks right across it into your life. Imagine the mother who finally said, "Lord, I trust you with my child's healing," and found peace that very night. Or the man drowning in debt who gave his fears to God and days later was offered a job he never applied for. Letting go isn't magic, it's the language of heaven. It tells God you're serious. It tells Saint Anthony your heart is ready. Holding on too tightly can choke the very blessings we're begging for. Saint Anthony wants to bring you your miracle, but not if you're still clutching the burden like it's yours alone to carry. He's waiting, he's listening, and he's watching for that moment when you finally say, "I surrender it all." That's when heaven's doors swing open. You see, it's never been about how hard you pray, but how much you believe. And belief shows itself most powerfully in the letting go. It's like unclenching your jaw, unlocking your chest, and letting the weight fall into God's hands. That's when Saint Anthony can intercede with full power, because now the space is clear. If you're still holding tight to that diagnosis, that unpaid bill, that broken relationship, pause. Ask yourself, have I truly surrendered this? Or am I just praying while panicking? Saint Anthony doesn't need your panic. He needs your permission to work a miracle. And your permission comes through trust. Every miracle begins with release. It begins with the quiet, radical decision to stop steering and let God take the wheel. And when you do that, Saint Anthony steps in like a divine guide. You may not see the result instantly, but you'll feel something shift. That heaviness in your chest, it'll lighten. That fear, it'll quiet. That's the sign you've let go. Right now, you're not being asked to fix your life. You're being asked to trust the one who can, to call on Saint Anthony, not with a script, but with your soul. Tell him, "I release this to you." Say it as many times as needed. That prayer has power. And as you let go, he takes hold. And that's when the impossible starts shifting toward the possible. This is your invitation, not just to hope for a miracle, but to allow it. Through surrender, through trust, through release. Saint Anthony is near. He's always near those who are ready to stop striving and start believing. And if you stay with us through this journey of prayer, something extraordinary is going to happen, because it already has. When Saint Anthony walks into the room, there are moments in life when the atmosphere shifts, and you can't explain why. The same problems are there, the same worries, the same unanswered prayers, but suddenly your heart feels calmer. That's not coincidence. That's Saint Anthony walking into the room. You don't have to see him. You'll know by the peace that wraps around you like a warm blanket in winter. Saint Anthony doesn't need a grand entrance. He comes quietly, humbly, just like Jesus did. But when he comes, chains start breaking. Fear loses its grip. Doors you thought were forever locked start to creak open. That's the miracle of his presence. He doesn't bring hope. He reveals that it never left. He awakens what's already inside you. So many of us are waiting for the right moment to believe. We want to see the answer before we trust. But faith doesn't work that way. Saint Anthony steps in before things look better. He enters when the mess is still everywhere, when you're barely holding it together, because that's when you need him most. Not at the finish line, at the breaking point, and when he's near, the impossible starts to feel possible. That diagnosis doesn't look so final. That debt doesn't feel so crushing. That broken heart doesn't ache as sharply. He brings heaven's perspective to earth's problems. And once you see your situation through Saint Anthony's eyes, fear begins to lose its voice. People often ask, how do I know if Saint Anthony is helping me? You know by the peace that comes when nothing else makes sense. By the sudden strength to keep going when you were ready to quit. By the smile that sneaks up on you after days of crying. That's not just resilience, it's grace in motion. It's the effect of a saint who knows your soul. He's not just the saint of lost things. He's the saint of lost people, lost peace, lost direction, lost time. And when he walks in, he doesn't just return what you've lost. He restores what was stolen. That's what makes his prayer so powerful. It's not just about receiving. It's about recovering, rebuilding. And that process starts with presence. Picture this. A woman kneels beside her hospital bed, praying for her child. She doesn't feel anything yet, but she keeps praying. Minutes later, the heart monitor stabilizes. She can't explain it, but Saint Anthony can. His intercession is quiet but immediate. He touches the edges of the situation and lets God flood the center with power. Sometimes the miracle isn't visible right away because it's happening inside you first. Saint Anthony clears the fog in your thinking, the chaos in your emotions, the weariness in your spirit. That clarity is preparation for what's coming. And when the inside aligns, the outside follows. Healing, provision, reconciliation, all fall into place like puzzle pieces. You don't need to be perfect to receive him. You just need to be willing to pray, willing to believe, willing to say, Saint Anthony, I don't know what to do, but I invite you in. That simple act opens a spiritual door no fear can shut. He's not just listening to your words, he's responding to your heart's cry. In this very moment, whether you're sitting on your couch or crying in your car, Saint Anthony is ready to enter. But he won't force his way in. He waits to be invited. And when he comes, he brings the divine backup you've been longing for. Financial relief, healing for the body, peace for the mind, restoration for the family. It's all carried in his prayer. His footsteps leave behind transformation. That's why this miraculous prayer to Saint Anthony works even in the most desperate cases. It's not about formulas, it's about presence, his presence. And where Saint Anthony is, grace abounds, fear flees, and miracles begin to bloom in the soil of your surrender. So, breathe deeply, whisper his name. Invite him in, not tomorrow, not when things look better, but right now. Because when Saint Anthony walks into the room, the atmosphere changes, and heaven gets closer than ever. He intercedes. Heaven responds. There's a mystery in the way heaven moves when Saint Anthony speaks your name. It's as if the winds pause to listen, the silence becomes holy. Because when this powerful saint lifts your cause in prayer, something shifts in the spiritual realm. This isn't folklore, it's faith in action. A prayer from Saint Anthony is like fire carried to the feet of God, and heaven cannot stay still in its presence. So many saints inspire, but Saint Anthony intercedes with a particular urgency. Why? Because he knows suffering. He understands lost hope. He's not a distant figure in stained glass. He's a living intercessor, alert to our cries and relentless in his appeal before God. That's why this prayer to Saint Anthony for desperate cases works. It's born of deep compassion and answered with divine power. Some say, "But I've prayed so much already." Yes, but now Saint Anthony is praying with you. Imagine the difference. You, weary and unsure. Him, radiant with faith and standing in heaven's courts, calling your name with authority. That's not a small thing. That's the key that unlocks locked doors. That's the voice that heaven honors without delay. When you pray this miracle prayer to Saint Anthony, you're not alone anymore. You're surrounded. Angels stand with you. Saints echo your cry, and the heart of God leans closer. Why? Because Saint Anthony's intercession is not just a request. It's a declaration of divine alignment. He doesn't beg, he believes. And belief is what moves mountains. Think of a mother in tears, unsure how to feed her children. Her prayer rises like smoke, but when Saint Anthony lifts it, it becomes a roar. The response comes through a neighbor offering groceries, a job opportunity appearing out of nowhere. Coincidence? Or the undeniable effect of a saint whose prayer is never ignored? This is not mythology. This is spiritual reality. People across centuries have testified when they called on Saint Anthony, answers came, sometimes in hours, sometimes in days, but always with divine precision. He doesn't operate on our timelines. He operates on God's, and God's timing is never late, especially when faith burns hot. Your financial struggle, he lifts it. Your sick loved one, he cradles their name in his hands. Your broken dreams, he carries them to the Father, saying, "Restore what was lost." And heaven listens. That's why the most powerful prayer to Saint Anthony is not a ritual. It's a release, a surrender into the hands of one who never stops interceding. The beauty of his intercession is that it transcends logic. You don't need to have the right words. You don't need a perfect track record. You just need to say, "Saint Anthony, pray for me." And he does, faithfully, fervently, fully. In that simple act, the heavens awaken. And suddenly the situation you thought was hopeless starts trembling under the weight of grace. Many saints are known for wisdom, some for healing, but Saint Anthony, he's known for returning what was gone: peace, hope, direction, even the will to live. And all of it comes through intercession. He steps into the chaos of your life and speaks heaven's language over it. Let there be light, and light comes every time. Miracles today aren't always parted seas or fire from the sky. Sometimes they look like the rent getting paid, a diagnosis changing, a hardened heart softening. These are no less divine, and St. Anthony's intercession is the bridge between your human need and God's supernatural supply. That's why we don't just pray. We call on him to pray with us. There's a sacred rhythm to his help. You cry, he listens, he speaks, heaven moves. You respond with gratitude and renewed faith. And then the cycle begins again. But each time, your soul is stronger. Your trust is deeper. Your awareness of God's goodness grows. This is the ripple effect of a single intercession done in faith. Don't underestimate the power of this moment. As you listen, Saint Anthony is already presenting your name before the Lord. He's already speaking your need. He's already placing your prayer like incense on heaven's altar. Believe this. Something is happening, even now, even as you wait. He intercedes, and heaven responds. Because when Saint Anthony prays, the silence breaks, the heavens open, and your miracle begins to walk toward you, even if you can't see it yet. The power of letting God take over. There's a moment in every journey of faith when you come to the end of yourself. You've tried controlling, fixing, managing, negotiating with heaven, but nothing moves. That's not failure, it's invitation. An invitation to step back, lift your hands and say, God, I give this entirely to you. That's the gateway to miracles. That's when Saint Anthony steps closer and heaven starts taking over. Most people don't realize that control is the enemy of faith. When you're clinging to your own plans, you're blocking the ones God already has for you. Saint Anthony reminds us that full surrender isn't weakness, it's spiritual strength. It's saying, I trust the outcome to the one who sees the whole picture. That's the most powerful place a believer can stand. Letting God take over doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's in your hands and leaving the rest in His. You still pray, you still act, but you no longer panic. You no longer carry the burden like it's yours alone. Saint Anthony wants to teach your soul to rest, because in that rest, God works most powerfully. Some blessings only come after surrender. That may sound harsh, but it's actually grace. God waits for the heart to trust before He pours out the impossible. Why? Because He loves relationship more than results. And when Saint Anthony sees you release your burden in trust, he intercedes with deeper fire. Because now heaven knows you're ready. Think of the woman who prayed for her daughter's healing, but continued to worry every hour. Then one night, she whispered, Lord, I let go. That night, her daughter's fever broke. That's not superstition, that's divine timing meeting total surrender. And Saint Anthony was right there, carrying her prayer straight into God's hands. So ask yourself honestly, what are you still holding on to? Is it the fear of being alone, the pressure of unpaid bills, the grief you haven't released? These aren't weights you're meant to carry. They are invitations to trust. And when you trust fully, you make room for God to show up in ways you never imagined. Saint Anthony doesn't just pray for your needs, he teaches you how to release them. His miracles often begin with a lesson in surrender. He whispers into the soul, let it go, and watch what God will do. And when the soul listens, something amazing happens. Chains fall, fear dissolves, and peace takes root. Peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of trust. And trust is what invites heaven into your circumstances. It says, God, I don't know how, but I know you will. That's when prayers become doorways, and Saint Anthony becomes your divine companion through them. He's not just interceding, he's walking with you. When you let God take over, time starts to work differently. Delays become preparation, silence becomes sacred, pain becomes purpose. That shift only happens when you stop trying to force the outcome. Saint Anthony understands that. That's why he responds so quickly to those who pray with open hearts, not clenched fists. Sometimes the miracle isn't the change in your circumstances, but the change in you. The anxious mind calms, the angry heart softens, the tired soul finds joy again. Those are miracles too. And Saint Anthony is part of each one, showing you that God doesn't just change things, he transforms people. When you truly surrender, you'll notice a new kind of strength. Not loud, not dramatic, quiet, steady, like the sound of peace returning to a weary heart. That's what Saint Anthony brings when you finally say, "Take it, Lord, I trust you." And in that holy handoff, your life begins to align with divine purpose. Don't be surprised if people around you notice. Peace is contagious. When they see you calm in the storm, they'll wonder what changed. And you'll smile knowing, I let go, and God took over. That's the testimony Saint Anthony wants for your life. A life not driven by fear, but lifted by faith. This mystery isn't about learning new prayers. It's about living them. Living as someone who trusts so deeply that even in the dark, you expect light. Even in the silence, you expect an answer. Even in pain, you expect healing. Because once you've surrendered it all, you're no longer hoping, you're resting in certainty. And when the soul rests in that sacred certainty, Saint Anthony's prayer becomes a force too powerful to resist. So if you're ready, lift your heart, let go, and prepare for what God's about to do next. The miracle is already on its way. There's a kind of faith that doesn't wait for proof. It breathes in the promise before it sees the outcome. It speaks thank you before the blessing arrives. That's the kind of faith Saint Anthony calls us into. The kind that says, even if I don't see it yet, I believe it's already happening. Because in the unseen realm, miracles are already moving toward you. It's not just wishful thinking, it's a holy certainty, a confidence anchored in who God is, not in how things look. Faith like that unlocks miracles before they appear. And Saint Anthony, the saint of the impossible, knows exactly how to nourish that faith. He whispers to your heart, don't give up now, it's already coming. The truth is, most miracles happen in silence, while you're going about your day, while you sleep, while you're crying in secret. That's when heaven is building what your eyes haven't seen yet. Saint Anthony walks those quiet halls of heaven, interceding, arranging, believing with you. And when the time is right, it all unfolds. We often think faith is about fighting harder, but sometimes faith is about standing still and trusting deeper. It's saying, I don't feel it yet, but I know it's on its way. That is the miracle mindset. That's the place where anxiety ends and anticipation begins. Saint Anthony reminds you there is no wasted prayer, only preparation. When you feel like nothing is changing, remember, roots grow before branches appear. God works below the surface first, and Saint Anthony knows this well. That's why his miraculous prayer is a prayer of hope in motion. It prepares the soil for what heaven is about to plant, and the harvest will be greater than you imagined. Think about it. How many times have you almost given up, only to see the answer come right after? That's not random. That's the pattern of faith. Tension before release, waiting before fulfillment. And Saint Anthony is the friend who says, hold on just a little longer, because he sees what you can't yet see. This moment you're in, it's not the end. It's the in-between. The miracle isn't delayed. It's developing. Just like a seed under the soil, it needs time, care, and trust. And while you wait, Saint Anthony is nurturing that promise with prayer, asking God to bring it forth in the perfect way and time. There is power in expectation. It turns your prayer into prophecy. Every time you say, I believe, you're planting a declaration in the Spirit. And Saint Anthony, walking beside you, waters it with divine intercession. Soon enough, it blossoms into reality. That's how you live in the miracle, before it even arrives. Don't let discouragement lie to you. The delay is not denial. The silence is not absence. Saint Anthony is still moving. God is still faithful. And the prayer you made in tears is still echoing in heaven. You may have forgotten it, but they haven't. It's still active, still alive, still on its way. And when the miracle comes, and it will, remember how it began. Not with a flash of light, but with a whisper of faith. A simple prayer, a deep surrender, a choice to believe when it was hard. That's what heaven responds to. That's what Saint Anthony amplifies with his powerful voice before God. The enemy loves to steal hope just before the breakthrough. Don't let him. Guard your hope like treasure. Speak life over your situation. Say out loud, my miracle is already coming. You're not lying. You're agreeing with what heaven is already preparing. And Saint Anthony is agreeing with you. Picture it now. The healing, the restoration, the breakthrough you've asked for. Feel it. Taste the relief. That's faith. Faith makes space for the blessing to land. And Saint Anthony clears that space with every prayer he lifts. He's not just a saint from history, he's your partner in this very moment. Even now, God is aligning the right people, the right opportunities, the right resources. It's all moving behind the scenes. Your job, keep praying, keep believing, keep expecting, and keep calling on Saint Anthony with confidence. He's already set the miracle in motion. So take a deep breath. Let go of doubt. Let hope rise again. You're closer than you think. What you've been praying for is on the horizon. And when it arrives, you'll look back and say, God was working the whole time. And Saint Anthony, he never left your side. The miracle is not far. It's not impossible. It's not forgotten. It's already on its way right now, because your faith has made room. Your surrender has opened the door, and Saint Anthony is still interceding. Final blessing. May the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, descend upon your heart like morning dew upon the grass. May every fear melt before the radiance of divine love. And may Saint Anthony's gentle presence fill your soul with new strength. Let your home be surrounded by light, your mind be wrapped in clarity, and your heart overflow with renewed courage. In this sacred moment, may the healing hands of the Lord touch your body, renewing every cell, every organ, every breath. If you've been carrying pain, may it lift now. If you've been walking through darkness, may light break through the clouds. Saint Anthony stands beside you, whispering your name before heaven's throne. To the one praying for family restoration, may peace return. To the one crying over finances, may doors open. To the one living in sorrow, may joy surprise you. Miracles are not distant, they are knocking at your door. Receive this blessing with faith and let your spirit arise. You are not forgotten, not overlooked, not too late. In the heavenly calendar, this moment was already written. God has seen every tear. Saint Anthony has heard every word. And now let grace pour into your life like living water upon dry ground. May every impossible case you face be touched by the breath of the Holy Spirit. Where others say no, may God say yes. Where you've been denied, may you be lifted. Where you've been abandoned, may love find you. And where there has been silence, may the voice of heaven speak clearly now. Saint Anthony, faithful servant of God, intercede now for this soul listening. Multiply their blessings, restore their strength, protect their family, and carry every petition to the heart of Jesus Christ, that it may be answered swiftly and completely by divine mercy and perfect will. Let your nights be peaceful, your days be filled with purpose, and your spirit overflow with thanksgiving. May every burden be exchanged for beauty. May every worry transform into wisdom, and may this prayer echo in your heart long after the video ends, reminding you that you are never alone. If you are waiting on a miracle, wait in joy. If you are unsure of the next step, trust in silence. If you feel weary, rest in his promise. Saint Anthony is already in motion. Heaven has already responded, and your breakthrough is already near. Receive this blessing as a seal over your life. Let it be your anchor in stormy waters, your fire in the cold night, your song in the wilderness. You were born for this moment. You were destined to overcome. The victory has already begun. Let faith replace fear. Let grace replace shame. Let abundance replace lack. Let love replace loneliness. May the God of miracles flood your life with more than you asked for, because he is always more generous than we expect. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we declare this is a turning point. From this day forward, you will not walk the same. You have prayed with faith. You have opened your heart, and heaven has heard. So go now in peace. Carry this blessing with you. Share it, live it, believe it, and watch as Saint Anthony and the Lord himself move mountains on your behalf. Have you felt something shift in your heart today? Do you believe that Saint Anthony is already carrying your request before God? What miracle are you expecting now? And how different would your life look if it arrived tomorrow? Let these questions linger in your soul. Not with doubt, but with holy anticipation. Because after this prayer, your life will never be the same. If this prayer moved your heart, please don't keep it to yourself. Like the light of a candle, it grows stronger when shared. Click the like button, comment Amen, and tell us your story below. Someone needs to hear it. Your miracle may inspire another miracle. Let's build faith together. Share this video now with someone who is waiting for a sign, someone who needs healing, hope, or help in a desperate situation. You never know how one prayer, one click, one act of love can change a life. Let Saint Anthony's intercession reach farther through your hands. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next powerful prayer. We are building a family of faith, one soul at a time. Together we pray. Together we believe. Together we receive. Turn on the notification bell and join us every week in miracles. And finally, if this touched your heart, write Amen in the comments. Then send this video to someone who needs it most. The more we share it, the more blessings we release. Saint Anthony is ready to intercede for you and for everyone you love.